Yo, what is going on, guys? So on today's episode, we have here a video from Insolent Audits of modern women having meltdowns over men's dating standards. So of course, guys, whenever men have dating standards or we have things that we will or won't accept, all of a sudden it's a massive problem. And so these women, they hear about these standards, they hear about these things, and they decide to get on TikTok and cry about it. So let's jump in. Let's take a listen. As always, don't forget to leave your thoughts and your comments.
No. These days, women know their worth. It's not that every woman thinks that she's a 10 out of 10. It's just that we don't base our value off of what a man thinks anymore. The only people that have a problem with that are insecure men who can't handle a woman who knows her worth. If you don't value a woman the same way they value themselves, that's okay. You're just not for her, bro. Just say you can't handle a bad who knows her worth, because if you could, you wouldn't be saying that. And in my opinion, there are ugly loser men everywhere. But everywhere I look, there is a beautiful, sophisticated, outgoing, hardworking. So you know what? If you're a woman and you're watching this, you should feel like a 10 out of 10. Because compared to some of these bozo men out there, we definitely are.
Sister, in the dribble of a rant, you missed the key question you boss babe queens never seem to understand. Must be answered. Why should any man have to handle you? I mean, hype yourself up all you want. All the power to you. But it's all locked inside that dome of yours. I am sure many women have heard men say females create an awesome movie, produced, directed, and starred by them in their heads. Unfortunately, that does not translate well into the real world. Sorry, sister. Just because you believe you have a high SMV does not make it real. Queen. The only 10 out of 10 you actually are would be the 10 layers of makeup plastered on your face. Now, I'm not blind to the ample amount of chumps and imps out there, more than ready to agree with this young Asian Barbie, all in an attempt to believe it's going to score them some possible bedroom access one day. Pathetic. But the rest of the men who can actually get action are for the most part self-respecting. They simply look at this gem of an XX chromosome catch and decide they will pass. It's not worth the headache dealing with this. Queen. Oh, that's right. According to women like her, that would make him a loser. Yeah, she's a prize I am sure men who value peace would gladly miss out on.
How dare you?
Moving on.
This right here is the equivalent of a middle school bully telling people that they're ugly, when in reality, it's the bully who feels bad about himself. I'm a dating coach to help men, but I am not afraid to call things out as they really are. And knocking women down a peg or two is not going to help you succeed in your dating life whatsoever. Let's just be real. Trying to make women feel lesser than about their appearance and straight up being a jerk is not the way to go. And I'm not just saying that because I am a woman. Let's say that I told men they were actually 3s and 4s when they thought they were 10s. That would be mean. That would be rude. So that's what we're not going to do. We're not going to be a jerk.
Actually, I'm not going to say knocking someone down a peg or two isn't effective in dating. I mean, ladies, do I really need to say the reason why?
Oh, God damn it! Why? Say it! Say it!
Well, it's obvious why it works, because women do it to men all the time. I'm sorry, ladies, but that is basically shaming language 101, and you women are the masters of it. I just find it funny how some of you have this huge issue with it when men use your same tactics. Another thing is being upfront with a woman and letting her know she isn't a 10 isn't chopping someone down. It's more like taking a vampire out into the sunlight. Yeah, the fantasy superpowers burn away with reality. And for this dating coach to say it would be mean to tell men they are 3s and 4s, well, sister, that is a man's everyday dating reality. Women have zero problems telling a man he is ugly, doesn't make enough money, he is overweight, he is balding, he isn't tall enough, or any other deficiency they can think of. Hey, a 5-star dating coach would have known this already. Don't get me wrong, as I believe men shouldn't waste their energy insulting women at all. But I do understand sometimes a woman needs to be given a reality check.
Hey, buddy, let me clue you in.
Moving on.
It is absolutely hilarious to me that you have so many of these women on these dating applications, on these social media applications, and they call themselves dating coaches, okay? But they are so ignorant of reality, right? So this is a woman, guys, who says, you know what, you can't call women 3s or 4s. Never mind the fact that it might actually be useful for them to know, right? Because here's the thing, you have so many women like this, this first woman here, okay, that don't even understand how ridiculous what they say actually is. So maybe a reality check is actually what these women need in order for men to actually want to speak with them in the first place. Right? This is a girl who says, if a man can't handle you, he's not really worth it, all of this crap. And these women don't even understand that men don't want to handle a woman. We're not interested. That's not how this works. No dude wants to go out there and date a woman who has the energy of a masculine man. It makes absolutely no sense. So I think a lot of these women, right, who are saying, it's mean to say that women are 3s or 4s. You ever think that maybe a lot of these women actually need these reality checks? Because these are reality checks that a lot of men have gotten throughout their entire lives. And I'll add on to that, by the way, by saying that if you're a dude and you're unattractive, most women will just straight up ignore you throughout your entire life. Like they just will straight up not respond to you. They'll ignore you. You'll get disgusted looks, all of these different sorts of things. So, it is what it is. Let's keep going.
Believe it.
You might want to run if a man tells you that you are too good for him. This is not flattery. This is foreshadow that he is most likely insecure.
It's foreshadowing. Let me just pause this right here. It's foreshadowing that the man actually doesn't want to date you. That's what it is. You're only a piece of fun to him, so he's making excuses not to date you because he doesn't want to. You're welcome.
And is going to self-sabotage the relationship in the future. At best, he is letting you know and being honest that he is going to disappoint you. And at worst, he is using this as a manipulation tactic to try to get you to consistently prove that you care about him without expecting his reciprocation because, hey, he already said that you are too good for him. Believe men when they tell on themselves, especially if they are saying anything along the lines of you two not being compatible for each other. There is absolutely no amount of validation in this world that you can give a man who cannot see his own value. And if you put that upon yourself, you are most likely going to just end up feeling like you are walking on eggshells around this person. Do not sell yourself short. Choose someone who can both recognize how great you are and want to put in the work and effort to be the person you deserve.
She is right for the most part, actually. I say most part because she is talking about one side of the coin. I'm just going to add on to that with a few more points she either missed or just doesn't understand. A chump who says a woman is too good for him is either slobbering over Chat/Tyrone's sloppy seconds or some guy who wants to break up with you and is trying to soften the blow. I will venture more on the former than the latter. Anyway, another point she probably couldn't see was the mental indoctrination of men who say this.
What? What are you talking about?
Okay, let me explain a bit better. Women are attracted to men who show powerful masculine traits. Women like men who are confident, stoic, take initiative, and are a rock women can latch themselves onto. And regardless of how many gender studies degrees you may have, those traits are deep-rooted in men with traditional values and mindsets. On the flip side, men who claim women are too good for them are none of the above. Sorry, sister, but that kind of talk usually comes from those dainty XY chromosome oppression movement talk allies who keep their tennis balls in your purse. Regardless of what your college professor, Miss Les Bull, has told you, these soy latte men realistically leave you drier than the Mojave Desert. Hey, you can't fight the biological urges that turn you into wetlands, now can you?
No.
Moving on.
See, I also think that a lot of men say that, you're too good for me, blah, 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 because they're straight up lying and they're just not interested in dating the woman. It's just like another Chad excuse for saying that, listen, I don't really want a relationship with you. And, that's really what it is. I think there's two sides to that. I think that men also say that when they can't be bothered or they're not really interested in dating the woman. And the dudes will just straight up lie and say stuff like that, even if they know that the woman's an absolute clown and she's really annoying. He's just going to say that so that he can not really date her or take her seriously.
I agree with this, and all my friends say it, that guys just don't approach anymore. Like in the past, maybe a guy would approach and come up to them, ask for the number. Once in a while it happens for me, but of course, like not as much as previously. And obviously, a guy can literally open up his Instagram app, search up girls in the city that he's in, go like a bunch of their photos on each of their pages. So you go on like 20 really pretty girls' pages, and then eventually one might follow back or like some photos back. And that is a hell of a lot easier for a guy and way less amount of rejection than to go up to a girl on the street. But if a guy is coming up to you on the street, and even if you're not interested in him, thank him and be kind, because it does take a lot of nerve to go up to someone and do that. And I do believe that real men still approach.
Wait a minute here. She closed out with real men still approach? Methinks this Queen sounds like she is missing the attention of real life cold approach. I am starting to notice a pattern in some of these female rant videos. Now, if I am reaching in what I'm about to say, by all means, correct me in the comments. I am gorilla enough to accept when I am proven wrong. Now, hear me out. Could it be possible that maybe, just maybe, some of these women, specifically the more attractive ones, are getting their fifis and egos bruised when men don't approach them in real life?
Liar! Liar! Liar!
I mean, let's give it some thought. When social media came on the scene, these ladies thought it was the best invention since sliced bread. All the long-distance attention drove their sense of entitlement to the stratosphere. Boom, post a pic and watch the likes pile up. Then, fewer and fewer men did cold approach. A certain believe all XX chromosome movement threw more fuel on that fire. Now, in the dating wild, these women feel like they are being avoided like if they had scabies. Well, that's what happens when you make it clear that any man who approaches you that isn't Chad/Tyrone is going to be labeled a creep. But hey, you still are going to get those invites from men of a rich nation wanting to fly you out to partake in pee and poop fetishes, right? Moving on.
The funny thing about all of these women complaining that men don't approach them anymore is that it's entirely self-inflicted. Okay, why should a man approach you when you're keeping your DMs open for these dudes anyway? Right? So men are expected to go out here, they're expected to risk rejection, to put in effort to talk to you, right? And what they get in return is a woman who has Instagram, who has her DMs open for these men anyway, right? So the problem here is that you want men to do traditional things, but you are not a traditional person. And the reason why she's complaining about this is because she doesn't get as much attention as she wants, right? That's what it all really comes down to. It doesn't actually come down to caring about a man or trying to find a lifelong partner. It comes down to, I'm getting less attention from men, so therefore it's a problem, right? I still expect men to be traditional, but I'm going to keep my DMs open for dudes. I'm going to continue posting, questionable photos of myself to the internet. I'm going to continue to advertise to men. But then they want men to approach them. They want men to continue buying them drinks or being chivalrous and things like this. And that's not how it works, okay? It really isn't. And the thing is, the dudes who do that, right, are either, guys who are simps, going around buying you drinks, or they're going to do that and they're just going to have fun with you, and then they're going to ditch you after the fact in a lot of cases, right? Because the men whose drinks are accepted and the men who are like when a guy walks up and talks to you, unless he's attractive, you're going to ignore him anyway, right? So again, absolutely hilarious that it's still expected for men to talk to these women and go up and approach them and risk rejection when they have their DMs open to that chat on a Friday night anyway. Absolutely not. Let's continue into the next clip here.
And poop fetishes, right?
Most men benefit from marriage.
I remember when I reached a point in my marriage, I am now divorced, where I was like, wow, my husband benefits so much from having me in his life. Like, literally, I handled all the finances. Whenever we traveled, I did all the travel arrangements. I did all the planning. I did all of the grocery shopping. I didn't really do the cooking, but I did pretty much all of the cleaning. And I did any type of like social organization, or if one of the people in our family like had a birthday, like I would shop for it. If we were going to a holiday at his family's house, I would make sure that we were bringing something. Like, I did everything for this man. And there came a point in my marriage where I was like, wow, this man benefits so much from marriage, but what do I benefit from? And when I stepped back and I really looked at that, I was like, I am not benefiting very much from this marriage. And so I started to ask him for more. And that's when I realized how replaceable women are, because instead of him wanting to do the work and actually like work to help the marriage move forward and for us to both be equal partners, there was a lot of resistance where he was like,
like, I think I could feel, and this is my projection, that he was like, why don't I just go, you know, like, find someone.
Wait a minute. Out of the gate, she admitted her husband not only paid for most things, he also cooked, and she claims he was the one benefiting the most from the marriage? Yes, ladies, the moment she said she coordinated the finances and vacations without saying she paid for it is the moment we all understood. Clearly, she basically said she knew how to spend his money.
Yeah, so basically the dude was making the money and he was cooking and doing these things, but she felt as though she deserved more. So because she felt like it, she divorced him and she moved on here. And this is why dudes don't marry you, okay? Because you can just divorce a man because you feel like you deserve better. And you know what? You deserve that womanist brainwashing. You really do. Okay, it's just absolutely disgusting how men are still expected to marry women like this. But because they feel like it, they can just completely ditch you. And I think Insolent Audits is absolutely right here when he says, you know, she says that she's coordinating the finances. She didn't say that, you know, she didn't say that she's making the money. She didn't say that she's bringing home the income for the household. No, she coordinates his finances and she doesn't do the cooking. So, like, well, what exactly is your role here? Screwing around? Like, oh, I organize birthday presents and I organize the holidays. Okay, so you buy the birthday presents and then you say where you want to go on holidays. You see how there's a very fine line here between what the words are and what they actually mean. If you read between the lines, you very quickly realize that this woman is clinically insane. And every time that they sit on TikTok and they're like, you know what, I'm divorced. And then they start talking, I'm like, wow, I can see exactly why you are divorced.
Be equal partners. There was a lot of resistance where he was like, I think I could feel, and this is my projection, that he was like, why don't I just go, you know, like, find someone.
Wait a minute. Out of the gate, she admitted her husband not only paid for most things, he also cooked, and she claims he was the one benefiting the most from the marriage? Yes, ladies, the moment she said she coordinated the finances and vacations without saying she paid for it is the moment we all understood. Clearly, she basically said she knew how to spend his money. All she did after that was clean, and she claims he was the one getting the deal.
Fiction can be fun.
Here's a hint. If she admitted she was easily replaceable, that in itself says who is benefiting the most. It's like the rubber of a tire telling a Mazda RX-8 it benefited the most when they were on the road together. You were made a tire and traveled where the car took you. You could have easily ended up as a used condom flushed down after a pump and dump. You're rubber after all. Not that I'm saying that women are rubber, just making a quick comparison of who actually benefited from whom. Anyway, she is divorced now, but let's call this what it is. A video sounding like she is trying to justify her divorce as if she were the prize.
Squeeze me? Oh no, you did.
Or I think because he was so religious, for him it wasn't, why don't I go find someone? It was like, wow, I should have picked someone who was just like asked less of me. And eventually he did step up a bit and really helped with other things, but again, it was him helping me. It wasn't him doing it. It was always me being like, you know, here's what needs to be done, can you please do it? And he'll be like, tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it. And you know, he would, to his credit, do it, but that was still the emotional labor that I had to do of telling him what needed to be done. And then I remember after we were getting divorced and I was thinking like, wow, I'm so replaceable, because he didn't really care about me as a person, but the role that I filled was what the men cared about. And I watched couples around us get divorced, and I watched the man move on before like one man, he moved on before his wife had even moved out of there.
Do you know why the man didn't really care about the divorce? The reason why is because he wanted to divorce you. He didn't like you. You were nagging him all of the time. You literally just said that it was emotional labor because you had to tell him what to do. Because you were commanding him to do things that somehow most affects you. And then you wonder why the guy was not particularly resistant to getting a divorce. It's because you're annoying. It's because you're nagging him. Okay, I'm so tired of these women pretending like it's somehow difficult to tell men what to do, right? Like, so she's sitting here trying to say that she's carrying all the emotional labor of the relationship. I'm sorry, but emotional labor is not a word. It absolutely isn't. And then they wonder why, like, oh, you know, my husband, my ex-husband or my ex-boyfriend, he didn't really seem to care when our relationship ended. That's because he was probably looking forward to it ending and he didn't want to deal with you anymore.
Home. And I was like, yeah, it's because men don't really see women as human. They see us as like, what are you benefiting us? And as soon as you stop benefiting us, well, we'll just go find someone who will offer us everything that we need and who.
I think this woman has it completely backwards. Completely and utterly backwards. She's assuming that men do the same thing that women do in this case. No, the man was probably happy to get a divorce. Well, not necessarily happy, but he wasn't super resistant to it because you were annoying. Okay? Like, it's really not that hard to figure out.
Won't complain.
You can't make this up. He actually did what she asked of him, and she still found a way to complain about it. This is what happens when you base all decisions on feelings. What did she want? For him to thank her for adding to his workload too? I swear that sometimes these Western queens just don't know how good they have it. Oh, it's such a blow to her ego that the man who was bending over backwards for her just had enough and moved on quickly. And the key thing she missed was, yes, men will go with someone who doesn't complain. Ladies, do you actually think your nagging and constant complaining makes you desirable as a wife? Heck, admitting she was constantly fussing is what drove him to move on quicker. Should have been a clue to her. Kind of like smoke to a fire, princess. Any man worth his salt is going to decide his mental peace is more important than your taco with a practical 24/7 HR rep attachment.
We decide our fates, not you.
So it wasn't about seeing us for our humanity and like loving me and us as the people. It was like, yeah, women are a renewable resource because we're a man, we'll just go get another one. And I remember just feeling so heartbroken because I had loved this man since I was 21 years old. I was so in love with my husband. Like I would have done anything. I did do anything for him. But for him to look at me and not feel that same way, that was such a hard lesson to learn because I was, you know, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, thinking about men crazy. But it was just such a painful lesson to learn because for me, it was my entire world. He was my entire world and I loved him and I adored him and I talked, you know, about him to the people that I loved. And for him, it was just kind of like, you're filling this role that I needed in my life in order to like be, you know, a whole human being and a man. And that's a really hard place to be.
No, she didn't do anything and everything for him out of love. If that were true, she would have put a muzzle on the nagging and she would have set her fifis to the side in order to make the marriage work, assuming he was also doing his part. All this divorce queen has said so far is me, and I feel I was more valuable. I am sorry, ladies. I have to say, in this entire video, all that we have seen is him being the higher value in the relationship, how little she contributed, but wants it to be recognized as more than what it actually was, and how she dislikes the fact that she was replaceable but didn't want him to be seen as the prize.
Isn't it super funny as well that this woman decides to leave her marriage, right? Because she feels as though she was doing too much emotional labor, but at the same time, she tries to say that she would do absolutely anything for this man. Right, so she loves him, he's the most important man in the world, but, you know, I do too much emotional labor, so what's going to happen is I'm going to divorce him. You see the logic there? You see how it doesn't really add up? Okay, and guys, like, men don't want to marry women like this, okay? He was probably completely tuned out, he was probably not listening to you, because every time you would just completely and utterly annoy him. Right, and he would put up with it because he loves you. But, you know, at the end of the day, he's not going to be resistant when you want to end a relationship with him. And I also find it funny how when the woman decides to end the relationship, the man is supposed to disagree. Like, we're supposed to just sit there and go, oh, no, please, like, oh, and start begging and doing stupid crap like this. Right, it's like, oh, I divorced my husband, and then he actually said yes, he actually agreed. Well, why would a man want to be with a woman who doesn't want to be with him in the first place? It's absolutely ridiculous. Guys, we are going to be leaving today's episode there. As always, remember to leave your thoughts and your comments. Make sure you take care of yourselves, and I'll be seeing you all in the next one. Peace.